In this video, we'll prepare a cash lineup for Week 13 on the main slate for DraftKings, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, we are here on Week 13, and often we're lucky to get one game with the over-under over 50. This week, we've got 3. That is the Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Chargers, Kansas City at Cincinnati, and Jacksonville at Detroit. So if we can, we'll try to get some of those guys in. How do you want to start, Michael?
Well, hey, Eric, at the running back position where we almost always like to start, there are several options for very strong running backs against really weak defenses. And I'm going to go with the guy who outscored everyone this last week in fantasy, Josh Jacobs, hosting the Chargers. You mentioned that game with the over-under of 50.5. Chargers' run defense has been more atrocious than even the Seattle Seahawks. And you saw what Josh Jacobs, even with that strained calf going into the game, was able to do against the Chargers. Yeah, he's listed as questionable, but I think that's just because of that strained calf that he had going into the game. Didn't seem to affect him this last week. Let's face it, the recipe for the Raiders to stay in and maybe win games is to give Josh Jacobs the ball. Last week, 33 attempts for 229 yards, and he had 6 receptions to go with that. He's getting targeted like he should. We've talked about him a lot this year. He's finally getting the carries that he needs to get, and he's getting in the end zone. This Los Angeles Chargers defense has not been good against the run. Both of these offenses are heating up. Both the defenses are weak. This should be a high-scoring game, and Josh Jacobs is going to be a big part of it. What do you think?
You clearly are trolling me, bringing up Josh Jacobs as the first player, as your Raiders ruined my Seahawks. Well, not ruined, but greatly hurt their playoff hopes with that overtime win. But yeah, if Jacobs is 100% healthy, love this pick. It's again attacking one of those high-scoring games. I will say that if you have some doubts about Jacobs' health later in the week, if you're hearing some concerning reports, I would just point out that Nick Chubb is only $100 more, and he is obviously a bell cow back facing the Houston team that is the worst rush defense in all of football. All right, so I am not going to unfortunately be able to afford Nick Chubb. So I'm going to save us a little bit of money at only $7,000. So not a ton, but actually at $6,200, excuse me, is David Montgomery. All right. I got a question for you and Michael and the audience. Who is going to score on Chicago, especially on the ground? Khalil Herbert's on IR. It's not going to be him. I don't think it's going to be Justin Fields. I think either he is going to be out, or because he's coming back from that shoulder injury, he is not going to run as much as he usually does. And look at this matchup. They face the Green Bay Packers, who are only behind the Houston Texans for how awful their rush defense is. 6,200, Michael. It's a great bargain here to get David Montgomery in our lineup for the involvement and game matchup that he has.
Yeah, if you watch this Sunday night game against Philadelphia, you saw that Green Bay gave up a ton of yards, and that's the recipe, especially with Fields being a little beat up, for Chicago to stay and maybe even win this game. Well, Eric, at the wide receiver position, we got to save some money. But I'm going to stick with this theme of Raiders, but actually an ex-Raider. And I'm going to go with Amari Cooper at $6,400, excuse me, going up against the Texans, who you've already mentioned in Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper has been leading the team in targets, getting 12 each of the last 2 weeks, including against two strong defenses in Tampa Bay and Buffalo. He's been the go-to guy, and they got Deshaun Watson back. Yeah, okay, the Houston pass defense hasn't been the worst in terms of yardage, but that's because they're usually playing from way behind, and teams want to run against them. Well, this game could be a little bit closer, and I think Amari Cooper at 6,400 is a bargain.
Deshaun Watson has waited 700 days, and he gets his old team, Houston. I have a feeling he is going to want to rub this in. So by far his best weapon's Amari Cooper. And you didn't break the bank at $6,400. I like it. I like it. So, all right, where am I going to go? Michael, I'm just going to say this is personally my favorite pick of our entire lineup, and therefore for week 13. And you know what? I don't know if you were out there on Black Friday trying to get deals. This guy, I think, is a Black Friday special that I have to go all the way down here at $5,300. What a bargain to get Garrett Wilson. Now, we've talked about him now 3 straight weeks. And each of the weeks we have said Garrett Wilson is outstanding. He's a tremendous talent. The only thing that holds him back is the other Wilson, Zach Wilson. Well, guess what? Zach Wilson is out, and he's been replaced by some white guy. I don't know, Michael. As in Mike White. And, in all seriousness, we kind of saw how good Mike White can be in some big games last year. He was particularly strong, and it wasn't a surprise at all that he leaned on his number one target. And it's not just that Garrett Wilson is a great talent. And it's not just that he's going to get an upgrade at quarterback. It's in the matchup, Michael. He's playing in a dome against Minnesota, who is dead last against the pass this year. I really cannot see a situation that he doesn't pay off this $5,300, barring an injury.
Yeah, no, I love this guy. He is a ball hawk. He's huge for the Jets, who are a playoff team right now. I like this pick. But guess what, Eric? I can save us even more money and go with a guy who's become all of a sudden the number one target for one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that's DeAndre Carter at $3,900 going up against my Raiders. We're picking on this game again. Let's face it, Mike Williams is not going to play. That ankle sprain is bad. I think that you're not seeing the same number of snaps out of Keenan Allen because of that hamstring. They're trying to protect him. So DeAndre Carter and Justin Palmer are the beneficiaries. And look what Carter did this last week. 10 targets, 7 receptions, got in the end zone. The Raiders' defensive backs are atrocious. And I think Justin Herbert is starting to pick things up. So I can't believe we're able to pick up DeAndre Carter for $3,900.
All right, I'm counting, Michael. That's the second trolling thing you've done on this call. You know that Keenan Allen's on my fantasy team for this league, and that you called DeAndre Carter becoming the number one target. I am offended, but I'm not offended by your choice of DeAndre Carter because he's $3,900. That's quite a bargain. It really opens up other opportunities for us elsewhere. And I really wanted to try to get a quarterback that was in one of the 6 games that I've talked about, because I think they all have shootout potential, not just because they're 50 over and under, but because the spread is very tight. It's 2 points or less in each of the games. And the game I am going to attack is probably one of the biggest bargains. It is Trevor Lawrence playing the Detroit Lions and only have to spend $5,900. Man, Detroit, I've said it over and over. I love facing the Detroit Lions, especially when the Lions are at home, because that defense is, well, terrible. It's just terrible. But the offense puts points on the board. And specifically when you're playing a quarterback against them, they will push that quarterback to continue to throw throughout the game.
And I'm going to keep the theme of bargain, go with our cheapest option this week, and I'm going to go with the Raiders again. because we need a cheap option. I want to save you some money for that flex spot. But at the tight end, we're going to go with my guy, Foster Moreau. He's $3,600 going up against the Chargers. We've already talked about their pass defense. He's competing with maybe not Devontae Adams, but with the number 2 spot in terms of targets, getting involved in the pass game. Like his floor, obviously trying to go with the bargain here, but to save us some additional dollars. But he's starting to become a little bit of a security blanket for Derek Carr as well. I think this offense is just going to get more and more opened up. I was pretty happy to see how they've done that last couple of weeks with Josh Jacobs running game, starting things off. So I think he's got a really nice floor at this $3,600 price tag.
Yeah, again, attacking this high-scoring game. And I think this is last call for Moreau, right? Because I think Darren Waller is going to return, not in week 13, but maybe in week 14. But now he gets the tight end spot all to himself in a high-scoring game at only $3,600. I like it. I like it. So that allows me, Michael, to once again pick on the Las Vegas Raiders, as we actually have 4 guys from that game at the flex spot. Let's spend up some money to get Austin Ekeler on DraftKings. He is so valuable because of its full PPR, right? So last week, 11 receptions. That's not just, he's got games of 12 targets, 8 targets, 12 targets, 16 targets. So, I mean, he constantly is involved in the passing game, which is so great. So what he basically gives you, if you look at his receiving numbers, he gives you number 1 wide receiver stats, top of the line wide receiver 1 statistics. But throw into that, he is going to get you carries and he's going to get you goal line carries. Mix that in with an outstanding matchup against the Raiders. I'm all in at 8,500. You don't even break the bank relative to some other guys at the flex position that are even more.
Yeah, and this guy's in my lineup. He's helped me propel to number 1 in our fantasy league. He's great week in and week out. We're obviously picking on this game. Not going to be affected by weather. It's in the dome. It's going to be high scoring. Both these defenses have been struggling.
Not that I'm counting, Michael, but that's a third trolling event because you figured out how to work. We're talking about DraftKings lineup, but you figured out how to brag that you are leading our fantasy league. By the way, by more than 2 games over the next opponent.
Thanks.
All right. What are we going to do for defense? I'll tell you, as a Seahawks fan, I'm really shocked that if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that the Rams would be at home hosting the Seahawks, who traditionally have not done well in the regular season against the Rams, and be a bargain basement cost defense, I wouldn't believe it, but they are. So let's take advantage. Have the Rams been awful this year? Absolutely. But I put most of the blame on the offensive side of the ball, Michael. The defense is still good. And, the Seahawks offensive line is not as bad as it was in previous years, but they're far from a star offensive line unit.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's out, so that's obviously going to hurt things, but they still have a nice pass rush.
All right, so that is our cash lineup. Michael and I got together to do a FanDuel cash and GPP lineup. That's on the screen now, and we'll also put another video that features NFL DFS that we think you'll enjoy. Until next time, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.